Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Daily Newcastle podcast. My name is Michael Grameslow and today I am joined by Iain Mackay. How's it going, Iain?
It's going great, Michael. It's going great. It's not quite so ridiculously hot as I've been sweltering my way through for the last week and a half or something. So I'm feeling more comfortable sat alone in my shop all day. But yeah, it's all right. It's fine. I'm good. The weekend's coming, isn't it? That's always good.
Yes, weekend coming. Newcastle Plate Day as well for those going. Newcastle Racecourse started today. Looks like it was a great day and it's going to be a great weekend ahead. I'm there on Saturday, so very much looking forward to that and getting to the end of the weekend. Or getting to the start of the weekend, should I say. But today we've had a little bit of news, which, to be honest, it's news, but it's not news at the same time. Transfer window was getting a bit tedious, and then until yesterday, where we announced 45 million bid had been rejected for Anthony Elanga. Who could have saw that coming at 45 million pounds when they rejected it last year, and he was worse than what he is now. But at 1 p.m. this afternoon, Sky Sports, probably from Luke Edwards, said that we'd launched a 125 million triple bid for Joao, Pedro, Anthony Elanga, and James Trafford, which either someone just woke up this morning and thought, you know what, let's just go for it, or it's not really just happened all at once and they've just got all the news ready to send out. But Fabrizio Romano also said we're accelerating our efforts to get James Trafford. Personal terms are apparently done, but it just seems like a long way around saying nothing's happened, really, doesn't it, Iain?
Well, my initial thought when I read it, it's not excellent. There's 3 signings on the way in. It was, hang on a minute, that 125 million cake doesn't sound like it divides into those 3 players, not from what we heard.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I think if you left James Trafford on the shelf, you might get the other 2 for 125 million. But we're way short on that estimate. I think if that's where we're bidding, we're lowballing.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds like 30 million for Trafford, 45 million for Elanga, and 50 for Joao Pedro. And I know it's one of those where you don't go balls to the wall, so they say, straight away, and just bid what they're going to want. You lowball them and then try and get a good deal. But it feels a bit underwhelming. I don't know if you feel the same we've bid for 3 players who are going to be good squad players. They'll probably do really well. But it's nothing really that exciting, and every price except from Trafford's is low. So, yeah, I'm a bit underwhelmed. I don't know what you think.
I would not be underwhelmed if we had Elanga and Pedro join the club. I think that would be a big step forward. I think they're 2 starters for me.
Okay.
And Trafford to learn alongside Pope this year and then be a starter next year would be, I guess, what everybody would be thinking would be happening. So I wouldn't be underwhelmed if those transfers actually happen. But if they've actually put figures on it, then I don't know. I don't think they'll be successful with any of those, as we've just calculated. What was it, 30, 45 and 50? That adds through to 125. We've already had 45 rejected for Elanga.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe Pedro's just blotted his copybook so much down at Brighton that they're doing a cut price deal. Oh no, that's Garnacho I'm thinking of.
I was going to say, he's one we can get on to later and pray that he never ends up in black and white.
What about this? Maybe, hopefully not too early in our discussion, to link it to the thought that Eddie was hinting that he wanted to take advantage of the 30th of June PSR deadline.
Yeah.
And I think, therefore, something's going to happen before the 30th of June, which is Monday, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Is this Trafford deal happening, and the other 2, the smoke screen that everyone can talk about while we quietly go about discussions and grab a winger and a forward from somewhere else using this PSR crowbar?
Yeah, it would make sense. I mean, Howe said himself, we wanted to reverse what happened to us last summer. This time we're in a strong position, sorry, and we'll be looking to make additions to the squad. That's exactly what he said. And I think when you look at it, it's one of those where Trafford, Burnley are one of the teams in trouble. They've just signed a goalkeeper. They're spending despite being in trouble, so they know a big sale is coming, which tells you Trafford is probably on the way. Either that or there's a surprise sale of Marcus Edwards, maybe, who's the only other player I could think of that would get that kind of fee. But it looks more likely to be Trafford. And then the other team in danger is Villa. And we mentioned on the last pod we were on, Iain, Ezri Konsa would be one that we dream of being a fantastic signing. The one that looks most likely is Jacob Ramsey. Play left wing or midfield, kind of like Joe Linton, but would you say he's a upgrade on Willock or Longstaff?
He probably is a bit, but not enough to excite me at all. I think if we're upgrading the midfield, we want somebody who's going to come in and to be able to step in for Bruno or Tonali without there being any noticeable dip off in our team's performance. Because in Willock and Miley, we have midfielders who can cover for those two. But they're never going to push the team further on once they've come on. I don't think Ramsey would either. I think, maybe Ramsey is the smokescreen for it to be Konza that it's winkled out. Konza we need. We need somebody in that position.
100%.
But nobody's talking about him. Nobody's speculating about him at all. And he's Gahey's England partner and centre half the last few games.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players that Villa will just. Yeah, I think he's one of those that Villa. I think he's probably the last player they would want to sell. It says a lot that Martinez is one of the players that's being touted as, we'd let him go when their only backup, Robin Olsen's just left as well. So it's a big surprise that Martinez has been the one touted alongside Ramsey. But if Ezri Konsa, he'd be an absolutely fantastic signing, particularly because we know we're looking at centre backs. Gay's sort of, it hasn't died down, but it's gone very quiet. I imagine that's because Palace are confirmed in the Europa League after the relegation of Lyon due to their debt issues. The one that's popped up, and you mentioned smoke screens there, and I think this is potentially one as well, is Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta, who they're saying 60 million. I'm not sure if you've heard a lot of him. From what I've seen, he's great. I've also seen he's very injury prone, and he spent most of last season out injured. For me, this stinks of another situation like Nicolo Barella last when we got Tonali. And I've got a feeling we're going to end up with a centre back we've not been linked with at all. But what do you think? Is it one of those? Do you think would maybe stay British, or do you think maybe we'd go elsewhere in the market for a centre back, because it's a hard position to fill?
I think they'll talk to Gahey first, and if Gay's looking for first team guarantees, he probably would get them from us, whereas he wouldn't from Liverpool, depending on where Canate 100%. Goes. But I think if Palace is still talking about 60, 70 million, well, I think we'd move on from it.
100%.
If they're talking about Scalvini as a smokescreen, there is a very good, I can't remember his name now. Where's this Malik Joao? Is he at AC Milan?
He's at AC Milan, or there's it's just come out today that he's set to sign for Como, the basically the new team with all the cash in Italy, managed by Cesc Fabregas. They've got a lot of ex-players, a lot of money behind them. They're looking to be the next big force in Italy, and they've announced that he's going to sign for them for about 20-25 million. So it looks like it's another one we've missed out on. Yeah,
and we were there last year for him, but concentrated on Gahey so long that he went. But there's another, I can't remember what his name is. It Gabbia that's also at Milan, who's meant to be a
yes.
That's the one. That's the smokescreen one that we'll winkle out. Sandro will have been on the phone asking if he wants to turn himself into a god instead of a centre half at a poor skint AC Milan. Then all he's got to do is
Yeah,
catch the flight to Newcastle.
it's
That's my
amazing what's
prediction.
happened to AC Milan, isn't it? They were such a mighty team not so long ago. To have the dwindling season that they've had, it seems to be happening to a lot of teams in Italy at the minute. I mean, Juventus have obviously they signed Lloyd Kelly, so their defence has gone from Barzagli, Chiellini, and Bonucci to Gatti and Kelly, which I'll be honest doesn't really have the same ring to it. But back to Newcastle because I can't speak too much on Juventus. Back to James Trafford. We touched on it just before on a previous episode, but how can you see the goalkeeping situation going if we actually sign the young keeper? Because when he was at Burnley in his first Premier League season, he only made it halfway through the season before being replaced with Muric, who was dreadful for Burnley, dreadful for Ipswich, and then he had such a fantastic season in the Championship. There's been rumours of Pope leaving, but it's too big of a risk for me. What do you
I don't
think?
think. I think that Pope will probably get Dubravka's number one shirt. I think Dubravka will go to Saudi because that was all lined up, wasn't it? I don't think we'll get a
It's
fee for him.
touted,
I think
yeah.
we'll just let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Pope will stay number one. Trafford will be understudy. Trafford will get a chance before Christmas because Pope will twist something, which means he can't keep the place, and Trafford will get an early chance to take over the first choice, and he
Yeah.
either will or he won't. But who knew that Martin Dubravka could keep Nick Pope out for so long as he did last year by turning in some fantastic performances?
Yeah,
Trafford needs
he
to
had
be
a really
doing
good
that.
spell.
Trafford needs to be doing
Yeah, I
that
think.
to win it. But I think Pope will
Yeah,
still be the
100%.
number one. I bet if you talk to Nick Pope, he's thinking that he wants the first team place because he wants to be in the England squad that gets taken to the World Cup next year.
Yeah, 100%. It's been so long since he's actually had a cap. He's been called up quite a few times, but it must be so frustrating as a goalkeeper because Jordan Pickford, as much as I hate to say it, is fantastic for England. He's improved for Everton. And then obviously you got the likes of Dean Henderson coming through as well, and managers just seem to favour the younger options, which is quite unfortunate for Pope. But I think he'll believe that this next tournament's his last chance, and he knows he'll need to be starting. But I do think you'll get the first 15, 20 games, even if we sign Trafford. I do agree.
Yeah.
Maybe Trafford gets some game time in the Champions League, 100% in the EFL Cup. But it's one of those where he's not going to sign if he doesn't get game time. It's a good problem to have, but obviously we saw with Arsenal, Raya and Ramsdale. Eventually, one's got to go. But it depends. One will fit in, one won't. But one player that I think maybe does have to go straight into the starting 11 if we sign him. In fact, you know what? We'll get to Anthony Elanga in a minute. Yes, I have just gave away who it is, but we're going to go to our first sponsor, and I'll give away who that is as well. It is Bionique.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Absolutely fantastic, and it's in the right position this time, and like the 30-minute mark, which I left it last time. So I'm being a bit more professional today. But into Anthony Elanga. Does he go straight into the starting 11 for you, or do you think it's one of those where he's going to be embedded in just like Anthony Gordon was, just like Bruno was, but it's 60 million. You've got to play him, haven't you?
I think he's got his bedding in time if he comes at that during the pre-season. We have 6, 7 games. I mean, there's games over in Korea, Celtic.
Yeah.
There's the Stella Cup with Atletico. There's the Espanyol coming. there's a lot of games to be betted in, particularly if they're in a full on 100% training camp. I think
Yeah.
there'll be time shared between him and Murphy on the right wing, but I don't think you'll see him sitting on the bench and coming on for the last 2 minutes once we get away at Villa. I think at 60 million he's a starter, and therefore he will start. Unless, of course, I've still got a little hankering for the fact that Mbeumo has not been announced as a Man United player yet. Could that be the shock?
It would be great, wouldn't it?
Because I think he was who I would like. I know Kev wanted Elanga over Mbeumo because he thinks he's just so rapid that he fits our style of play so well. Whether that is the same style of play that we'd have if we had Joao Pedro kicking around as a number 10, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see it all. We'll probably have lots of different ways of playing with this if these are the guys that are coming in. But we're ignoring the fact, Michael. We're ignoring the fact that if we keep bidding 45 quid for Elanga, Forest will just say no several times over. And if we bid more than that and we meet Trafford halfway at 30, 35, then it's putting us where we've got 40 million on this 125 pie they talked about to go after Pedro, and that is probably just over half of what Brighton are going to be after.
Yeah, they're going to be after quite a bit for Joao Pedro, aren't they? I mean, you can see that they'd be happy for him to leave. I think that was the case when you saw Danny Welbeck starting most of last season. I know that Joao Pedro typically plays a little bit behind, but when you have someone else in behind and Danny Welbeck's always starting, Joao Pedro's not really getting that many minutes. It tells you that maybe, just maybe, he's had a bit of a falling out with the manager, and when the manager's that good, Brighton are always going to back the manager. But yeah, it's one of those. I think you mentioned the playing styles there as well. If Joao Pedro does sign, he's going to be one of those where the playing style is going to have to at least be tweaked a little bit because he doesn't really fit the Joe Linton role, and then he's not a winger. So what I think might happen is I think we might be in one of those situations where against teams like well, maybe not Sunderland because it's a derby, but lesser teams like Sunderland, you're going to play Joao Pedro on that Joe Linton sort of position alongside Tonali and Bruno, where you're not going to be defending too much and he can afford to get forward, and he still is a bit of a bruiser. So it does work a little bit in that favour. And then once you're 1-0, 2-0 up, Joe Linton comes in to just secure everything. But I don't know, it's a weird one because he doesn't really fit into the system, and he's not a player that I really would have picked for Newcastle for Eddie Howe. None of it really seems to add up, but he is a good player, isn't he? He's a very good player.
Well, yeah, I've looked at he's always a threat. Whenever we played against him, he was always a threat. And I've looked at a little bit more since we've been in for him, and he looks really good, actually. Brazil international, of course, so he'll be mates with Bruno and Joe Linton straight away.
Bruno and Joe, yeah. 100%. I think it's one of those as well. He's one of the only people that Fabrizio Romano's got a transfer wrong on after the old "here we go" that he always tweets. He put it out for when we were going to sign him from Watford for 25 million, and then Brighton came in with an extra 5-10 million, and we wouldn't match it. And because we didn't match it, we probably signed someone. Let's say we signed someone just as good afterwards. I can't remember who it was, but could have saved ourselves 20 million by just paying an extra 10 then. But I think it was the Ashley days, so can't really blame them for that.
Probably the right move to
at the time.
Bring Isak in, I think.
Yeah,
but again, are these smoke? Are these? It's so blatantly obvious what we're doing that I kind of counterintuitively think that we can't possibly be doing all of that, and then that's for the public consumption while we beaver away a little bit doing our own thing. What do you think about if it's not Elanga, for example, but we like to be talking about the fact that it is, and that's why we keep bidding what we know is going to be rejected for him?
Yeah.
What about a Bakayoko or a Semenyi coming in from Europe?
Yeah, it's It's a bit of an awkward one because Bakayoko's, from what I've seen, has had a bit of a falling out of PSV. He's not actually been first choice there either, which sounds familiar. So a player being linked to Newcastle or being at Newcastle, going to the Eredivisie in a top team and not being first choice. Yankuba Minte at Feyenoord, obviously was in and out of the team last year. Bakayoko seems to be the same now. They reckon he's going to cost about 30-40 million, which for the price of a player from the Eredivisie, maybe it's Anthony syndrome, where I'm just scared of players from that league. Donny van de Beek, for example, as well. Timber looks a decent signing for Arsenal, but a lot of players from that league don't make it. He'd be exciting, which I think is what a lot of Newcastle fans want. Just someone like an Alan Saint-Maximin to come back. I'm not saying Alan Saint-Maximin should come back, but someone to excite the fans again. And I think Bakayoko would do that, but for me, I think you need... I'm not saying you need someone proven, but you need someone who either comes from a top team, like an AC Milan, some of that, a top team in a top 5 league, should I say, because PSV are good, or someone Premier League proven for me. And that's an awkward one because usually I do favour the foreign signing, but yeah, it's a bit big of a risk for me.
The other Premier League wingers we've looked at, they're starting to talk about, and it's even more money than Mbeumo or Elanga, isn't it?
Yeah, Kudus and Semenyo.
70 or 80 million quid they're going to go after him.
Yeah, it's bizarre that.
Made an inquiry for him. I mean, I would be after Eze if we had that sort of money to spend as the number 10 rather than Joao
100%.
Pedro. I think Eze is a fantastic player. He doesn't play down the right though, I don't think, but he can play in the middle, can't he?
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those where I know we play with wingers, but realistically, Gordon has played as a number 10. He's played as a false 9, as a striker. He's comfortable anywhere along that front line. And I think so is Eberechi Eze. Obviously, both of them prefer that sort of left side. But I think if you'd said to Eze and Gordon, right, you both just play behind the striker as if you're two inside number 10s, still use your width where you can, but make the most of Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento overlapping. I mean, that's a very dangerous attack, and I think it's one that works hard enough that Eddie Howe would be happy with. But yeah, it is, again, a change of a system.
That lineup has 3 centre halves in it that you've just described, doesn't it?
It didn't, but it would work with 3 centre halves. Because I was thinking basically the 4-3-3 as it normally is, but instead of Murphy and Gordon playing wingers, you'd put them inside, a bit like Man United do with Ahmad, and I think Fernandes sometimes plays in that role as well. Not that that's worked out particularly well for them, so maybe not. No. But it's one of those 2 number 10s I think would work very well with Gordon and Eze.
If you switch that, Eze replacing Murphy and then coming in, and the wingers being the 2 fullbacks with 2 centre halves, it still leaves the 3 midfielders to try and fill something. There's an extra midfielder there because you've got 2 number 10s as well. So that's what I meant about how you'd have 3 at the back, and Joe Linton could come on and tie things up second half.
Yeah, it would definitely work. You could Tino and Paul should definitely be as further forward as they can be. And if you even play sort of not the same way Pep Guardiola does, but with the 3 at the back, the 4 almost defensive midfielders, you got Tonali, Bruno, then you'd have Hall and Livramento either side. They'd be mainly bombing forward, but Tonali and Bruno can control the game from deep. It's really, really dangerous, and it sounds fantastic, to be honest. But Eze, it would be an Eze coming in, and with Palace getting European football, I don't think they're going to want to sell anyone anytime soon. Then you'd need a great centre-back, maybe 2.
Michael, I've got an affordable Premier League option who is at the very minimum unsettled at his present.
Oh, I don't believe you.
But I'm going to tell you that after I've given you the Zencaster advert. How's that?
Oh, you tease. You're going to have
Do
to.
you have a story to tell the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching the audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencaster makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, your nose, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencaster makes it super easy to start a podcast. Sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Now
And
stop teasing and let me know who.
I'd like to dedicate the original Zencaster advert to our lost friend Kevin, who's having the whole summer off because he's a new dad. He's probably sleeping because he didn't get any sleep in May or June.
Yeah, credit to him.
My tease, yeah, and I honestly, when I say it, it's so super obvious. I don't know why nobody is doing this link because Wolves apparently inquired about the availability of England under-21 starlet Harvey Elliott from Liverpool, but were put off by being quoted 40 million. Now, I know Harvey Elliott's not as fast as Anthony Elanga, and I know he's probably not as tricky and as well. I don't know. Maybe he is. He's only 20 or something, or 21. I just
he
think
hasn't had much game time, has he?
He played 360 minutes in the Premier League last year, which is 4 games in total. And I know it was all in little 10 and 15-minute chunks. So you did see him, but he didn't play very much. Klopp hasn't picked him. Klopp loved him, played him a lot more. And he looked good.
Yeah,
he looked good when he came on in the Carabao Cup final. He nearly changed it for them, him and Curtis Jones. So what about that? What about that? If it's a 40 million deal, forget the 45 to Elanga. The worst case of that is that you can go above 50 to try and bring your Joao Pedro in. But he's a right-sided attacking winger type, is he not?
Yeah, he's definitely more right-sided than left-sided. I think he'd probably prefer to play centrally, but he definitely wouldn't say no to a spot on the right-hand side for Newcastle United, I don't think. The only thing that puts me off there is the 40 million of... I'm not... If I'm wanting someone who's... If I'm paying 40 million for someone, I want someone who's played quite a bit of minutes, and I generally don't think for Liverpool he's played more than 3,000 in 3 years, maybe. So that's a worry for me. But he is a very talented player. We saw that last night as as England under 21s got the final where they'll play Germany, and he is a talent. He does look good against us. He scored the goal against PSG, I think it was, for Liverpool. Nearly good. Well, he's the reason they got the penalties. So it's one of those where he's got so much potential, but I'm just wondering why he's not been used.
Did not play a lot as a kid for Fulham. He's on loan at Fulham as a really young lad.
Not for Fulham. No, he didn't play too much for Fulham. He played for Blackburn quite a bit. He had a great season in the Championship for Blackburn. I think it was
Fulham.
There was another one from Fulham who was very good. They've had a very good youth system around that time. He did come from Fulham, but he literally made 2 substitute appearances. One on the last day, I remember, he was like their youngest player. And then Liverpool signed him and loaned him out to Blackburn pretty much straight away, where he did really well. But yeah, he's been at Liverpool since 2019 now. And it's one of those for me where I would have liked to have seen him get a lot more minutes. I do have a few friends who are Liverpool fans, and I mentioned the performance last night to them, and they said it's a perfect example of Harvey Elliott, where what he can do amazes you sometimes, but he is so ball greedy that when it doesn't work out in the Premier League, it costs you. Now, to be honest, I'm just repeating what was said. I haven't seen enough to say that for certain, but a tricky winger who can do what he did last night, it is worth a risk.
You're telling me that we are effectively have uncovered a second Douser, tricky winger, who's a little bit ball greedy, for about 40 million. And what we're not going to jump on it because Anthony Gordon hasn't worked out for us. I think that is I think that's something we ought to go for. I think the only reason you've not heard about it yet is he's got a final to play on Saturday. When he comes back next week, he could be a signing next week.
The surprise signing. Well, to be fair, Liverpool have spent 200 million. They're going to need to start finding some cash from somewhere. Kelleher was only sold for what, 12, 15? Yeah, you were saying before last on Monday, it was ridiculous that we weren't going in for someone of that quality for 12 million. I completely agree. It's, if they're only making 12 million from Kelleher, Michael Edwards was getting 15 million for Jordan Ibe, and he ended up in like level 8 or 9. So their magic's gone on that front. But maybe if we could get him for 30 million, I'd be content. But I think 40 is maybe just a little bit much, particularly when there's probably, Riyad Cherki for Man City, he's gone for 37 million. And you're thinking, if they're bringing in players of Man City quality for 40 million, surely there's better options out there. We just need to find them.
Well, I would put Harvey Elliott forward. I think he will. I think he'll move because I don't think he wants to sit on the bench for another season. I think he's showcased his talent in this under-21 championship, and I think if Wolves will put up by 40 mil, that's what they were quoted. You could go and do 30 million plus some add-on, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
If they're looking to offload, because the danger at 21 that he won't make it into the 25 Premier League squad because they've got so many players there. They've got to get rid of some players, otherwise they're sitting as training partners for everyone. And he's probably not earning a fortune. The young lad, he's probably waiting.
No, he won't be.
And he ain't going to get one. I think the more I talk about it, Michael, the more I think we should be sniffing after Harvey Elliott and leave the expensive Elanga for somebody else to have.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And I think one of the things that's got me is if it does happen as a deal, I think it'll be one of those that happens really quickly. And just a quote that Howe said at the start of the window, he said, "Speed is key for us, and I've reiterated that many times internally. Speed is key because we need to be dynamic." Now, at the start of the window, we all thought, we're signing 3 players in June. What I'm looking at that now and thinking, right, well, actually, what he probably means is from the moment we first make contact to the moment the player signs, it needs to be as quick as possible because people are going to come in. And we saw that with Mbuemo. We've seen that with numerous other players where we get linked and all of a sudden Chelsea are jumping on it. Man United are jumping on it. So it's really annoying. But what do you think? Do you think it's speed is key is more in relation to getting the deal done rather than acting, at the start of the window like many believed? Or do you think we just need to be a little bit patient and June isn't done yet?
Well, June isn't done yet. I think something will happen before the end of June because we're not even borderline, are we? We did get 9 million for Miggy and 20 million in for Kelly. We've got some money to spend in this PSR window. And if you think a 50 million player on a 5-year contract will only count as 10 million in this chunk. So we've got a lot that we can spend if we do it like that. And Howe said he wanted to do that. So I think there'll be something that they'll be going for before the end of Monday. Whether that's Harvey Elliott, I'm not sure. He's only going to be back on Monday from the championship. Depends how much work agent Livramento has done, doesn't it?
Probably quite a lot knowing Wartino.
He was one of the first people across banging him on the back for scoring that goal last night.
Yeah, he's been fantastic in that competition as well. I think if it wasn't for that Nick Wolfsmade from Germany and Harvey Elliott from England, Tina would be a shout for player of the tournament because he has been absolutely fantastic. But we expected nothing else from our little wizard. But I just wanted to end on one thing, and it's something that I've heard quite a lot over the last 2 weeks while we've been linked with the likes of Elanga. And it's one of those things where people are noticing that Newcastle keep going for Premier League players with inflated prices, but the foreign market is so much cheaper. Do you think it's one of those where, in Eddie Howe's mind, he doesn't want to take the risk with players knowing how strapped for cash we are? Or do you think just Premier League proven is a necessity for a team wanting to be Champions League and at the stage we are?
Well, I think if I get your argument there, and I get you're not taking a risk. If you get an Elanga, he can play how we want him to play in the Premier League. But where has Eddie really made his name in terms of the signings he's brought to Newcastle? He's done Bruno
Foreign
out
players.
of France. He's found Botman in France.
Yes.
Tonali in Italy.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking at all of the market, and I think if you're trying to set some smoke screens up, telling the press, when they're speculating that you must be in for an Elanga, is one way of doing it very easily. So
100%.
we'll see. It'll all unfold. But I don't think we're in the Ashley Bruce era or the Pardew era where we are in 1st of September watching Pardew shrug going, well, we tried, we couldn't get it over the line. God, I think we'll
You'll
make.
just have to settle for Chefney Kuchi and Sylvain Marveau.
Yes.
I know the two never played together, but they were just two players that came immediately in my head. And to be honest, that is kind of offensive to Sylvain Marveau because he actually did have half a decent season for us, that Europa League season. But yeah, I completely get you. We're out of the era of the cheap foreign players coming in to be first teamers, as well as, on that 1st of September going, well, we tried. That's it. It kind of felt like that's what it was last year.
But it doesn't have to be. They don't have to be cheap under the radar ones. Look at Cherky. We know he's a great player. City have bought him, but they spent less than 40 million quid on him.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they bought Haaland, I know it was a while ago.
Ridiculous the price that was.
I mean, he was a monster. They got him for 62 million.
62 million. They got him for less than what we got Isak, which, to be honest, Isak still looks like a fantastic sign against. But for the price you got Enzo Fernandez, you could have had Erling Haaland and Alexander Isak, which, I know who I'd rather have.
That's what I mean. So, the elite, the players who have already shown that the potential to be elite in Europe are still available at much more affordable prices. Whereas we're going to have to go and pay top dollar for an Elanga, for a Joao Pedro, in the hope that Eddie can coach them into becoming elite. But good players though both those are, they're not elite players yet. They've only done it for Brighton and Nottingham Forest. So there's not a lot of European experience there.
Yeah, this is something as well on the side of AC Milan. It looks like they're having a bit of a fire sale. It looks like Hernandez is going to Al Hilal for 30 million. Fantastic player. We don't really need him, but it's one of those that's leaving. And then Rafael Leao apparently going for 60 million. The same amount we're apparently going to pay for Elanga and Joao Pedro. And then Mike Maignan, the goalkeeper who was fantastic against us. In the Champions League, has been fantastic for years, is France's number one goalkeeper, is going for less than what we're going to sign James Trafford for. I know Trafford's a lot younger and has a lot of potential, but when you see that market, you are sort of thinking short term is when we're battling for Champions League and we're not sure we're going to get it. They're the kind of players that you think they could be the difference. But yeah, I believe in the process. I believe in how. It's not one of those things where I'm going to get excited, I think, about Elanga or Joao Pedro or James Trafford. But I think at the end of the season, I'll look back on them and go, you know what, they were good signings. So it's like a Callum Wilson who came in, who, to be fair, I was excited about. But a Chris Wood, who, when we signed him, we all went, he'll get goals. Yeah, he'll do the trick. And then wasn't fantastic for us, but it was part of the point that sent Burnley down, and it worked in the end. And I think that's what these signings will be. They'll work in the end. And I don't know if you have a different opinion to that, but just got to keep the faith.
I trust them.
I think.
I trust Eddie hasn't got much wrong. The only one
No,
he
absolutely
questioned,
not.
because he was quite quick to go and get Lloyd Kelly, but that was a free transfer that they sold for 20 million 3 months later. So that was still
Exactly. It's
excellent
an
business.
excellent signing.
Yeah, and I'm just working it through. This goes out Friday morning, so our next pod, which we'll record on Sunday night, go out on Monday
Yeah,
morning, might
we
have
could
a
have
lot
already
of
signed
transfer
someone.
news in it.
Yeah, I mean, we can
But
hope.
48 hours is a long time in the last 3 days of a transfer window, particularly
Yeah.
a PSR transfer window. So yeah, so
Well,
that'll be good.
we know all
Uh,
about that, don't we? Elliot Anderson, Yankuba Minte.
oh
Hopefully,
God, yeah.
it's the other side this time.
They went that afternoon, didn't they? Last afternoon of it.
Yeah, it was
But at least
supposed
Gordon
to be
didn't, because
Gordon
he
by
could
the
have
sounds
gone.
of things. Yeah, I'd
Mm.
heard a lot afterwards about how Gordon was basically being prepped to leave. And then we managed to basically get the two offers in for the two younger lads, and Gordon was told he'll stay. Obviously, how true that is, I don't 100% know, but I heard so much about it afterwards and stuff that wasn't always in the media that made me sort of think maybe this is true or maybe it's just rumours. But yeah, glad we're not in that spot this year. Hopefully, Aston Villa and Burnley will be, and it'll lead to us getting some great players. And just on a note there, you mentioned Eddie Howe doesn't get a lot wrong. I'm looking at his top signings for Newcastle and Bournemouth, and yeah, there are certainly more hits in there than misses. You've got your Jordan Ives in there.
I was going to say, you
Ultimately,
mentioned him earlier. You
yeah.
mentioned Ive
You
earlier.
got
I was
Dom.
going to say, did I?
Yeah, there's Matt Targett, Jordan Ibe, and Solanke in there, but they're definitely the worst out the lot. And there's a lot of fantastic signings there. So, you know what? I'm more than happy to trust whoever comes in and whoever does well. And, well, let's just not talk about the Forest goalkeeper we signed for 23 million. But that's been us for this episode. It's been 40 minutes of us talking transfers. And to be honest, I would do another 40 in a heartbeat. And I hate talking about transfers. So I fully enjoyed it,
Good
Iain.
stuff.
Thank you very much for being here with
Thank
me.
you.
And we
Thank
will
you for
see
being the
you
host with the
next
most.
time. Oh, you are too nice. Goodbye, everyone.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.